Okay, everyone. So I wanted to kind of respond to some people that had asked about for voiceover and so forth. So I explain kind of how I do my process. So what I'm doing right here is I just add in a bunch of localized colors, kind of the palette that I want to use. So when I'm doing oceans and I want it to be a night scene, I'll tend to use the more of a muted yellow and some blues, like silver blue and so forth. So that's kind of what you see that's going on right around through here and then down through here. So what I did was I just took the paint tube in Artrage and squiggled out some colors, and then all I'm doing right here is taking the palette knife and starting to really move those around and squish them around. I don't use any special settings or anything usually when I'm doing this. I like to just kind of go with what's there in Artrage and squish it around. Sometimes I'm doing them on my iPad, other times I'm doing them on my desktop. So it just kind of depends. I tend to use my iPad more for sketching more than anything else. But so right here, like I said, I'm just blocking in the colors and then kind of smearing them around to kind of get a feel for where I want things to be. Really just more of a sketching and blocking in right now to get an idea. Just so you know, this video is sped up. I don't paint this fast, obviously. But I do tend to paint fairly loose and fast, and try to use a lot of techniques that I use for when I'm the same ones that I use when I use acrylic and oil paints on canvas. So that's kind of what's going on right here. One of the things I really love about Artrage is the fact that you can get kind of a natural feel for the paints as you're smishing them around, and it really does kind of give you the same feeling more or less as real paint. Okay. One thing I'm doing right here that I kind of switched from is Artrage has a paint roller in it, and it also can be used for blending colors really well. I was trying to play around with the texture. I wasn't sure if I liked just having the paint the way it is right now, so I really kind of wanted to play up the texture of the canvas setting that I had underneath and kind of bring some of that out. So I wanted to smear it around and take a look at it, and you'll see that eventually I just decided I didn't like this, so I went back to just doing it the other way that I normally do. But the roller is a good way to kind of get in some color a lot more controlled than with just the oil brush. So what I did was I just started putting it in there. Then, like I said, I decided I didn't like the texture that was there, so you'll see me starting to paint it back out as I'm adding color in and going back to just the oil brush. So, and I wanted to work in some different colors down here. I try to work in more colors into my water than just blue. I always want to try and work in blues and greens and even some yellows and sometimes some reds in it as well. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Is I use a comma stroke, or which is really the easiest way to describe it is kind of like the lay a banana on its side and that kind of stroke, that rocking chair motion kind of look. So that's what I've done right here. Now, if there's any additional questions anyone has as far as technique or any of that kind of stuff, please leave me some comments, let me know, and I will do my best to get back to them as soon as I can. It's taken me a little bit to kind of get back to stuff here. I unfortunately lost my parents last month, so I've been kind of dealing with the aftermath of that, so it's taken me a little bit of time. But I will do my best to get back to them as soon as possible and see if I can answer the questions. Or if there's something specific you want to see how to paint, like a form or a technique or something like that that you need help with, let me know. I do have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree and with painting and sculpture. So that's why I tend to try to get more of a painterly look. I've used Photoshop for painting as well, because I've loved Photoshop and Artrage and all these programs since they first came out. And So I like messing around with them and stuff. But anyway, I always wanted to get that painterly look. So I think that's why I tend to gravitate more towards Artrage than I do with Photoshop. Photoshop's great for getting that real slick look, and you can get some painterly looks with it if you throw some grunge filters on top or textures. But again, I just kind of like the way that Artrage has more of a painterly feel to it. There are other programs out there that people use. Those just happen to be the two that I tend to gravitate towards. And Artrage, I like it because it's really affordable. It's not that expensive at all, and so it gave me a good way to kind of play around. Originally, I put it on my iPad because I was using it more as a sketch pad and a notebook, and so I would make quick paintings there, and then I would either do them in Canvas or I would do them in Artrage itself. And so that's where I kind of got started with Artrage, was on the iPad app. So what I'm doing right here is I'm kind of playing around with the lights and shadows, pushing it so that it has more depth, and playing around with it. I know this part of the video will get a little tedious as I'm doing all that, and so, but I want to always try and push the lights and the darks as much as I can without muddying it up too much. So that's what I'm trying to work on right here. But again, like I said, if there's any other particular techniques or types of paintings and things that you'd like to see, I would love to hear about it, and would love to take the time to show you some of the different ways that I do the approach some projects. So I am trying to go back and put voiceovers to all of my videos, so that way I have more of a how-to, and I am going to be breaking them down and putting them on my website, which is tnartist.me, so tennesseeartist.me, and I'll have them broken down there with slides and so forth, kind of broken out of it. So right here again, trying to push back and forth on the lights and the darks. One of the other tools that I tend to switch to every once in a while when I want kind of a soft blend would be the airbrush, but right now I believe I'm still using the oil brush right here and trying to get in some localized colors. Again, this was really done more as a sketch. I think I spent all total about 30 minutes on this, and just wanting to play around with the lights and the darks and get a feel for it and see if I could just get something that I liked. So I thought it turned out pretty good, and it was kind of a fun play on light and dark and color, and gave me a nice painterly feel by the time I was done. Some people ask what pads and tablets I use and so forth. The tablet that I use, I actually had a Wacom for the longest time, or a Wacom, depending on, I've heard people say it different ways. I always called it Wacom, but I had that for the longest time, and then mine died. And I saw where somebody had reviewed a Genius from geniusnet.com. So I tried it. It was again, it was inexpensive. It was kind of between paychecks, if you will. So I wanted to try it out, and I hooked it up. It seems to work really well. I mean, honestly, I think it has just about the same pressure sensitivity as my Wacom did. I think it does a really good job, especially if somebody's just wanting to kind of get in and play around with programs and try them out. So I use it, and I like it a lot. The one downside is it does take a battery inside the pen, so there's that. So if your battery starts kind of wearing down, you'll find yourself pushing a little harder to get it to activate. But for the most part, it seems to do really well, and I may try switching to another tablet sometime soon, but I kind of like it. But anyway, this is Artrage that I'm using right now. And like I said, it's a good affordable program, especially if you've got somebody that's wanting to try out some digital artwork and try their hand at some different things. It's really great for that, especially kids and stuff. I think it works great for them, to give them a chance to play around with it and not have to have the expense of trying to get Photoshop or something like that. So highly recommend it. I don't get paid by them or anything to say that. I just say it because I absolutely love it. And they've got a really good forum on their website that everybody there is really helpful if you've got questions and stuff as well. You can find me on there. I actually have my real name on there, which is Brett Tadlock, and I think I go by B Tadlock on there, and then TN Artist everywhere else. So anyway, but yeah, just trying to pick out some clouds and stuff. What I do right here when I'm doing clouds, what I will do is I smear the paint together, look for the natural shapes that are there, and then with the airbrush I start putting in some highlights on where I think the cloud shapes would be, and then I'll go back and blend the back side of the highlights, so that way it kind of blends it into the cloud. I found it's a really effective way to do it in Artrage. It's very similar to how I do it on Canvas. So right here, that's all I'm doing is trying to flesh out some of the clouds and do some of the stuff. Same things with the wave spatter as well. So all in all, it seems to be working fairly well. And I just, again, just playing around. I wasn't trying to go for a super finished painting on this. Really just more of a study and playing around with light and dark. So, and then waves, you can do the same thing. You can start trying to find lights and darks that you like. Start picking out the areas that you want to define the shapes. Remember, when you're doing waves and when you're doing clouds, it can be very easy to overthink them. And I have found that you're just better off to really smear in some controlled chaos. And then from there, start playing around with the colors, pushing, pulling here and there. And you can see that's kind of what I'm doing here. I decided I really wanted to break up some more stuff and play around. So I started going back over it. One of the things too I found I was doing, I was really starting to get focused in on details instead of keeping it loose like I wanted, because I wanted it more not abstract but more impressionistic. So I forced myself to go to a larger brush and start kind of really smearing it in, and not letting myself get focused on the details, because it's easy to get caught up on those. But for this, all I really want to do is try and capture a mood. So coming up on about a minute left on the video, and again, still just trying to pick out details from foam and spray and so forth. So let me ask you again, what is it from this that you would like to know how to do? Is there something from this video or one of my other ones, or a technique you've seen somewhere else, or a picture you've seen somewhere? If there's a particular image that you've seen that has something in it you would like to learn how to paint, or learn how to get some ideas about, hey, how would you approach this or something like that, leave me a comment below, and I will definitely jump in there and see what I can do to try and break something down. Paint something similar to what you've shown. Like if you got a link to something that you want me to take a look at, you can shoot it in there, or just private message me as well, and I'll take a look at it and see what I can do. Obviously, I'm not going to reproduce something that's copyrighted, but I will, just maybe do something inspired by it and kind of give you an idea of how to approach something like that. So, but just put some information in there. Let me know what it is exactly that you guys want to see or find out about. So, and again, here what I'm trying to do is just get everything fleshed out. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Just leave me a comment below and let me know how I can help. Thanks so much.